go ahead and start?
Yeah.
Okay, aloha, aloha, kako. I'm John Pelletier, the Kona Community Development Plan Action Committee. Meeting will now come to order. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. The time is 12:03. This meeting is being held in person and via interactive conference technology. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the Planning Department's YouTube channel. Sunshine law reminder for remote members, please keep your camera on. Also, please state for the record where you're participating from and whether anyone is in the room with you except for minors. I will do a roll call from the committee first and then introduce staff.
I'm Nancy Psicchio, I'm Vice Chair, I live in Cahill.
R.J. Kirshner, I'm a Kona member.
Charlotte Thompson, I'm a member of the Action Committee, live in Kona.
Shane Olsen from South Kona.
And then Charlie.
Yeah, aloha, Charlie Young from South Kona, and there's no one in the room with me.
Thanks, Charlie. And I'm John Pelletier again, Chair. I live in Oklahoma, North Kona. Planning Department staff, if y'all want to introduce yourself.
Aloha, Janice Hata with the Planning Department.
Hi, Maureen Palmer with the Planning Department.
Anyone on Zoom besides Jeff?
We have Elizabeth.
We have a Zoom host,
Okay.
Elizabeth, back at the office, running this for us.
Well, okay, we have quorum noting the absence of Rosalind. So some housekeeping and meeting etiquette. Please ensure that your cell phones are silenced. If you are here in person and wish to testify, please complete a sign-up form and provide it to the staff. If you're joining via Zoom and wish to testify, please use the raise hand feature or send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating the agenda item on which you wish to speak. All speakers are asked to clearly state their name for the record from the beginning, before beginning their testimony. Those attending in person, please direct your comments towards the owl camera and microphones. Participants on Zoom can hear you clearly. Aloha etiquette for today's meeting. As a reminder, we strive to conduct our meetings in the spirit of aloha, maintain an open and positive attitude, listen to understand, respect that everyone has the right to share their ideas and feel comfortable doing so. It is acceptable to disagree, but please do so respectfully. Focus on the issue, not the individual. One person speaks at a time with no side conversations. Minimize distractions by silencing cell phones or refraining from outside work during the meeting. In consideration of everyone's time, please adhere to the established time limits. All right, we'll move to the approval of the minutes. The time is 12:05. The committee will consider approving the draft minutes from the February 10th, 2026 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting what date was that?
I'll second that.
Okay, well, Nancy moved to approve the minutes from the February 10th, 2026 meeting, seconded by Charlotte. Are there any comments or corrections? Hearing none. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Sorry, Jean, do you want to say something? Your microphone's on.
Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to public testimony on agenda items. The time is 12:06. We will now take public testimony on items on today's agenda. As noted on the agenda, members of the public may testify now or when a specific agenda item is called to order. Testimony may be limited to 3 minutes per agenda item. Please keep comments to matters within the committee's scope and related to the item you are addressing. If there's anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out a testimony form on the front table and give it to our staff. Were there any testimony forms?
I never seen that.
Jeff or Justine, you want to testify on anything right now? No? Okay. Anyone on Zoom would like to testify? Okay, seeing
Yes,
none.
I would like to testify.
I don't know who said that.
Michelle.
Yes.
This is in regards to the what's it called? The amendment, the general plan, right? Bill 63 you guys are talking about, right?
No, we are not talking about Bill 60. Bill 63 is not the general plan. It was a bill that was passed in the council related to mixed-use commercial industrial zoning.
Okay, my understanding was you guys were talking about the general plan draft today. Am I incorrect about that?
That's at council. Council discussed it earlier this morning. We're not discussing it today.
Okay, that was my understanding. All right,
Yeah, check the council agendas because it's at council now, so they're going to be discussing it and accepting testimony on it.
Okay, so it has not passed yet then, totally.
No, it's still at the planning policy committee, so it has to go through there and then into full council.
To full council.
Yeah.
All right, okay, mahalo.
Thanks, Michelle. Anyone else wishing to testify on our agenda? Okay, if not, we will move to third-party reports, government officials pursuant to Hawaii Senate Bill 405, signed into law as Act 72. The committee may receive and discuss information from third-party reports by any government official that are not listed on the publicly noticed agenda. The committee may not make decisions on matters raised only through third-party reports until a later meeting where the agenda gives notice that the committee may take action on the matter. I believe we moved. We're just going to talk in the agenda. Yeah. Is there any other officials that wish to give a report? Okay, let's move on to the business then. The time is 12:09. We'll now move on to committee business. Item 1 is a report from Planning Director Jeffrey Darrow about the status of legislation regarding bed and breakfast operations, the Planning Department's process for reviewing transit-oriented development proposals, opportunities for enhanced communication and collaboration between the Planning Department and the AC, and general discussion regarding concurrency zone proposed roads identified on the concurrency map of the Kona CDP. And I see Jeff is here today. Jeff, thank you so much for making it today after the morning meeting about the general plan.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Chair and members of the Kona Community Development Action Committee. Jeff Darrow with the Planning Department. Appreciate your flexibility. We didn't really be able to address some of the things last time, but I think with oversight from our Corporation Council, I think we're in line now to be able to address some of the questions that were raised. If you'd like, I can go right into the questions that were agendized.
Sure.
So the first question is regarding the status of legislation regulating bed and breakfast operations. So as you're all familiar with, back in 2018, 2019, they initiated the Bill 108 to regulate STVRs, or short-term vacation rentals. They're typically referred to as unhosted vacation rentals because nobody lives on the property. Somebody that rents the house is renting the entire house. There's no host that's a part of it. What was missing from the bill was what typically is referred to as hosted vacation rentals. There was an attempt to bring that in with Bill 121. Unfortunately, that didn't pass. I believe it just got shelved. And so there's an attempt now with Council Member Kimball to bring back a bill that will regulate both the short-term vacation rentals as well as bed and breakfast. Seem to have a lot of opposition during Bill 121 and 122. Bill 122 was focused on removing bed and breakfasts from the code and kind of referring everything as hosted rentals in Bill 121. Both of those again got shelved. And so now moving forward, the direction is that they will focus more on regulating hosted rentals as bed and breakfasts. And then again, keeping short-term vacation rentals in the code pretty much the same. There's a little bit of changes that are happening, but this will kind of, this area regarding bed and breakfasts will identify where it will be permitted and where it will require some sort of permit. Typically, it's looking like because of the fact that state land use law is, kind of trumps us. If you're located in the state land use agricultural district, bed and breakfasts are typically not considered a permitted use, and they require special permits. But in other zoning areas, they're looking at identifying them as a permitted use. Now, again, all of this is in draft form. So what you're hearing is the current, what we're working on right now. As part of that, both of these types of what they call TVRs, transient vacation rentals, will need to register. And that was brought forth, as you recall, with that registration process through Chapter 6, which got approved. And the only thing with Chapter 6 is there's an effective date that hasn't come to pass yet, which is July 1st, 2026. If all goes well and we're able to bring forth this bill, it gets passed, and they bring on the platform, which is supposed to help kind of oversee this process, then registrations should be able to go forward, and there'll be opportunities to direct, if somebody needs additional permitting, like a special permit, or maybe they need to get a extra building permit or something, we can work with them to be able to get through that process. But they will be registered. And again, this is still in draft form, but the goal is that they will be able to operate with this period of time to come into compliance with, if there's any type of compliance that needs to be done. I'm not sure, Janice is saying there's some sort of background noise. I'm not sure who that might be coming from. Most of the guys on Zoom, I think, are muted, so it might actually just be coming from the Civic Center. Is there a way you guys can mute that over there? We'll see if that makes a difference. But anyway, that's kind of summing it up. The B&B is, as far as the overall direction of it, is pretty much remaining similar to what it is now, up to 5 bedrooms, so many people within the dwelling, but there has to be a host, right? That's what sets it apart from an STVR. You have a host on site that is taking care of any type of issues that may happen. Hopefully that sums it up. Are there any questions you may have?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Nancy has a question.
Are you interested in talking about something that could come forward but isn't currently in the works? Or did you just want to talk about what you know of that's moving along?
Well, there's nothing currently that's in the work. I mean, this is what's in the works. There's nothing that's been submitted yet as a bill. So my understanding is that is supposed to come forward very, very shortly. If not in April, maybe early May. That's where we're at with that right now. There hasn't been a bill that's been identified yet. This is kind of just where we're at in draft form right now.
I was wondering if you had was interested in expressing your personal opinion about something other than what you brought up, or regarding bed and breakfast, or
You
whether
want me to- I mean, I can,
I don't have to bring it up.
yeah, I mean, you can ask, and we'll see if I get dinged or not to
Okay,
answer.
well, I'll mention it, but when Bill went 108 was going through council, I went through, I think, 5 drafts before the council approved it. And at the last reading, right before it was made law, there was an amendment made that made all multifamily eligible to be bed and breakfasts. Even those outside of resort or vacation zones. I think one of the Kona council members made the amendment and it ended up passing. So right now, all multifamily, unless the association itself makes them illegal for their own project, any multifamily, no matter where it is, like Kona Coffee Villas or ones that were never really thought of as vacation rentals, can be rented out by the owners as vacation rentals. Do you think that's a good practice? Do you think that if legislation came forward to amend that so that future multifamily couldn't be continued to be used as some vacation rentals, that would be a good policy to consider?
I'm hoping I'm hearing you correctly. At first, Nancy, you had mentioned that all multifamily allowed B&Bs to be permitted.
Short-term vacation rentals.
So
um,
that's
Multifamily
that's a
is
little
vacation
different.
rental.
So currently, the draft that passed allows STVRs to be permitted in RM zonings or multifamily zonings if they are CPR'd or created as a condominium property regime. So if you are not a CPR, it won't meet that requirement. Um, and that's the current read of the code right now. So there's people that come in that are in the RM zoning, but they're not a CPR unit, so they wouldn't just be allowed unless, of course, they fell in one of those unique general plan resort nodes. Then they would be allowed.
Yes, but nonetheless, it opened up a whole lot of condominiums into that use, like Kona Coffee Villas is an example. That
Right.
a lot of them then gobbled them all up for really cheap prices and converted them to vacation rentals, and the values went up tremendously. And that was never the original intent of Bill 108, but it was the last minute amendment that got passed.
Yeah.
And some of us have been saying that maybe we should attempt to re-amend the bill to take that provision out, and I was just wondering if you had an opinion about it.
I don't have an opinion. I know that this new bill that'll be coming out will open the door for amendments to SDVRs as well as B&Bs. So that could be an opportunity to propose that changes be made to that particular section of the bill.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Charlie, you want to ask your question?
I do. Thank you, Chair. And welcome, Director Darrow. I appreciate you for coming and taking your time out of your busy schedule. And I apologize for not being at last month's meeting to greet you personally, but welcome. I hope this is a precursor to many more meetings so we can keep each other in touch. The question I have, though, is on bed and breakfasts and STRs. I know way back when there was a part that required the neighbors to be informed that this was being conducted or being applied for as an application, and then also a variance would have to be issued and a public hearing. I'm concerned about. I live in a rural area in South Kona, and bed and breakfasts, and which then converted to short-term rentals, were prolific out here. All non permitted. So I'm just wondering what, if any, recourse some of the neighbors may have other, before it turns into one, if there are any.
So thank you, Mr. Young. The current practice for bed and breakfasts, so STVRs and these the code right now that addresses short-term vacation rentals. The only way that somebody could be operating legally now out in a rural or ag zoning is if they got what was called a non-conforming use certificate, right? Otherwise, they're operating illegally. And those are the ones that are unhosted, right? No one's living there, they're renting out the entire house. Now, if they're operating what we call a hosted rental or a bed and breakfast where someone lives on the site, they really should be coming in for a special permit if they're in the agricultural or rural zoning to get approved as a bed and breakfast. And that goes through the public um, notification process where the surrounding property owners are notified, and they go before the planning commission for either for seeking an approval. Whether or not they'll get that is up to the planning commission. But right now, there's a lot of people operating what we call hosted rentals, right? We don't have anything in our code that identifies what a hosted rental is. The closest thing we have is a bed and breakfast, right? And those right now require use permits in residential zonings, and they are in the single family residential and special permits out in the agricultural and rural zoning districts. Hopefully that helps.
Any other questions from the committee on this specific item?
I think Janice is raising her hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should, Janice, I see your hand up.
I think Janice is trying to say something.
Yeah, I see your hands up, Janice. I think we should get through the report first and just limit questions to the committee. I just want to make sure we get through everything and respect Jeff's time.
Oh, sorry. It was about, hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. It was just about the hosted versus non-hosted. I can wait till the end though, if you'd rather.
Thank you, Janice.
Okay.
Okay. Director Darrow, if you want to continue on.
With the next question.
Yes.
All right, let's see here. Okay. So the planning department's process for reviewing transit-oriented developments or TOD proposals. We, as you're aware, we don't get a lot, right? It's, they have to fall within one of those identified transit-oriented development sites located on the map within the community development plan. We've had two come in. One is Palamanui, which I'm sure you're aware of. The other one that's coming in now is Makalapua, which is just in the same area as Target and Ross and that whole area there. So typically what happens is you have to have a particular amount of land area, right, to be able to kind of qualify to establish a TOD. Both Palamanui and Makalapua definitely met that criteria. The second criteria is that they need to come in for a project district rezoning, right? Palamanui came in, they went through that process. As they were going through it, we met with their consultants. We have in the plan, it identifies what they call the design center, which is basically staff from our West Hawaii planning department. And they meet with the consultants, the applicants, they meet with government agencies, and they try to really work out all of the issues regarding the potential design of the transit-oriented development, including potential transit options, right? Whether that be a hub, whether that be different types of mass transit or modal, multimodal type of options that are going to be a big part of this particular development. Additionally, we worked with them in laying out the project through the SMART code, which is identified in the back of the Kona Community Development Plan. That was quite a heavy lift, not only for the staff, but also for the consultant, because trying to do a project utilizing the SMART code identified in the community development plan was a new process. It wasn't something staff was aware of, wasn't something the consultant was aware of. So it was a work in progress as we went through it, and they did a pretty outstanding job working together to come out with those identified plans that met the criteria in the Kona Community Development Plan. But again, the process that typically happens is we'll see a rezoning come in. If we identify it as being in the TOD, will try to confirm that they have that land area that's needed to establish a TOD. If they do, then we will direct them to come in and meet with us and direct them to this requirement that is within the Kona Community Development Plan to go to a project district and to come into the design center before submitting and working out all the details. We're in the process right now with Makalapua, so that's where we're at with them. And there was another one that was what we call the Pualani Makai project. It's directly Makai of Pualani subdivision on the Makai side of Queen Kahahumanu. And it was a unique situation because they did not have the minimum land area that was needed for the project district. So we were recommending that the project actually not be approved without obtaining more of that land area to create the TOD. As we went through council, they had allowed them to go forward and kind of identified them as kind of like a partial TOD because they had like about half of what was needed. They didn't go to a project district. They went to RM and commercial, but they were required to come in and meet with the design center and to be able to kind of establish the concepts that are identified within the Kona Community Development Plan. I don't think that they have come in yet. I think they're still working out their details as far as all of their plans and conditions. Hopefully that answers most people's questions, but if you have any questions on that, I can answer.
Go on with the question. I had one. So is there a benefit to the developer if they do decide to build a TOD in these zones? Like, it sounds like it puts a lot of restrictions on them. What makes them want to develop the TOD? Are they required if they have the land side in that zone, or is there some kind of benefit?
Well, I mean, typically the Kona Community Development Plan became ordinance. So you folks identified where these TODs are somewhat identified. They're there on a map, but they're not established yet. They become established when this process happens. So As far as benefits go, there is give and take as far as processing, and that's all identified in the plan. There's supposed to be some streamlining that goes on, some help with infrastructure, although, you know, we can only do what we can do. We do try to work with them and expedite, but the overall project district itself, that particular zoning is a real benefit to the developers because it provides incredible design flexibility, and it's like having all the uses for all the residential zonings and all the commercial zonings and the resort zonings allowed in a particular zoning district. They have to come in with a master plan to identify where they're going to put these particular different types of uses, and that they have to comply with all the conditions that are brought forth in the rezoning ordinance. So as far as benefits go, I mean, there are some, but basically they're doing this because it's a requirement of the CDP.
Thank you, Jay. Nancy?
I might not remember this correctly, but isn't there a benefit in terms of increased density within TODs?
It can be. There's transfer of development rights, and we've kind of worked through that. It's not something that really has been needed at this point. The projects have quite a bit of density already. If there is a request for that, we can apply it, but so far we haven't had a request that I can recall for that.
Thank you.
RJ?
Hello, Jeff, RJ Kirschner. What is the minimum lot size? You said that, there's a land size hurdle you have to get to.
Give me 1 second here. I think it's 80, but let me confirm that. Trying to find my plans here. I got so many windows open. Let's see, 80. Let me do this. I can work on that.
So then my question is, if it's around 80 acres in Kona, there's very few parcels that aren't zoned ag that are of that size that I know. It's a very limited number of properties that could possibly be used as part of the code, right?
Yeah, you know, there might have been a change in the 2019. And that might have said that they have to comply with the land area for a project district. And I think we've brought that down. I will find that information before we finish, and then we can I can bring that up and do that. Let's see. Yeah, let me work on that and I'll get it. Yeah, before it was in the 2019 amendment, there was before that it was 80 acres. And as a result of what you're saying exactly, that it was difficult to come up with that amount of land area for one landowner, they ended up changing under policy LU-2.4, which is the TOD floating zone section, that the minimum land area for a new community shall be, instead of 80 acres, consistent with the zoning code's requirements for project districts. And now I've got to find what the minimum area is in the zoning code. It could be 50, but we might have made it less. In fact, I think that's one of the proposals we're doing in the current zoning code update is to bring that number down. Because let's see, land area, 50 acres right now. So it brought it down 30 acres, but I think we're even going to go a little smaller. But you know, when you're thinking about creating a transit-oriented development in an area that you want to establish as that core area, it should be, you know, at least a certain size. It can't be like 5 acres or something. It's just not going to work. That's why you see this floating zone in the maps, but once it gets established, it's kind of brought into that core area. Hopefully that helps.
Even at 50 acres, there aren't too many properties.
Right.
And so in agriculture that are that size.
And as mentioned, we're looking at changing this in the zoning code update. I believe our new area is 20 acres. So that's a little bit more reasonable.
That sounds workable.
Hey, John, would
Yes,
you consider having comments while we're covering these points? Because to go back to it, I think seems a little bit hard and kind of disruptive. I think it might be better, I don't know, I'm just asking if we could, while we're talking TODs, be able to comment on TODs, etc.
I think we really want to get through these points first. So let's just get through these points first, and then if Jeff has time afterwards, because we already had to defer this to one meeting.
Okay,
Um,
thanks.
any other questions? Thanks, Janice. Any other questions from the committee on this point? Okay, do you want to move on to the next one, Jeff?
Okay, so opportunities for enhanced communication and collaboration between the planning department and the AC. This is a first step, you know, trying to make time to be available. You know, if you folks end up having um, a number of questions that you come up with that you'd like the planning director to address, I'm more than happy to be available to address it, whether in person or on Zoom. I try to like to be there in person. Unfortunately, today that didn't happen because of a special meeting that came up. But additionally, you know, what we're trying to do is, and this will be the next point, is we're constantly monitoring when applications come in, how the community development plan is affecting that particular request. And we want to make sure there's compliance with whatever that project may be. There, you know, there's been requests from the action committees to be able to send them everything in their district. And unfortunately, we just don't have the staff to be able to monitor that and do that. But there are avenues available for action committee members that can just go to a website, our website, and see everything that's come in. And if there's something that you would like to review, we can make it available to you. And then if you have questions of that particular application, we can make sure that we answer those questions, or even to bring to our attention something that may be in the CDP that might be relevant in regards to a particular application. But I'm also open to any other suggestions.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I mean, you being here the last two meetings has been really great. It's the first time since I've been on that we've been able to have the planning director speak to us for so long, so I really appreciate that. And
Thank
your
you.
willingness to talk applications with us. Any other thoughts or questions about that? Oh, appreciate it. Sorry.
Jeff, just a general comment, and that is that and this isn't the planning department so much as the county as a whole. Without the proper studies and stuff that are needed to properly plan. I mean, we're working on studies that are 20 years old for the CDP. Nobody knows what water is available where. We don't have any reasonably current traffic studies. Becomes very hard to plan. Essentially what happens is somebody with deep pockets comes in and they get what they want, but somebody without deep pockets is left wondering, what can I do? And I'm hoping that the planning department fights for more funding for the proper studies to be done to properly plan our future.
I completely understand you and your concern. We have been struggling not only last year, but this next coming fiscal year, we've been told to hold the line, status quo, and it puts everything on hold another year. We're dealing with a general plan right now that's over 20 years old, and we're trying to update that. And that's cost quite a bit of our time and effort and money over the last 10 years. Hopefully, shortly, we should be through that, and we can focus our efforts on updating all of the community development plans. As mentioned, in regards to priorities, we haven't touched the South Hilo Community Development Plan for over, I don't even want to mention how long, but that really needs to take precedent. But definitely the Kona CDP is the next one in line after that, in the sense that just how everything came to be through timing. So we definitely will be working together and try to see what we can do to get some additional monies. I can talk to staff. Maybe there's options for even grants or other money sources that we can tap into that might help provide some monies for reports and updates and things like that.
Charlie?
Yeah, thank you. Just on this subject, communication was one of the things that we felt was kind of lacking for a while for us. And we were, somewhat out of the loop. So we kind of took some of our own initiatives, in terms of how do we improve our communication. A couple of things came to mind. One was how do we and can we better communicate with the other ACs? Is there a format that perhaps planning department could, set out for us so that at least chairs and vice chairs can keep in touch from time to time? I think that we felt that was useful for us. The other thing we had discussed, and this may be out of the planning department, is though is no, it's in the planning department. I'm sorry. How do we communicate with the other commissions, committees that are advising them? One was a cultural committee, because I think decisions that we were not aware of at a time, and when we were made aware of it, it kind of entered into our discussion as to were we being consistent with them, and so I think we're trying to work for a more perfect product when at the end, and communication has always been a challenge. I just thought I seed you with that. If you see some utility for us to be more active in that in that area, and maybe you can point us out, point some things out for us, and maybe help facilitate meetings among the action committees. And again, that's all so that we can get the communication better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I can't specifically answer that directly right now, but what I will do is meet with our staff and see what we can do and if we can do it. Sometimes there's legal boundaries that we have to stay within. But if there's opportunities that we can do that, we definitely will try to provide you with those opportunities. As mentioned too, as far as like what we want to do is make sure that you folks are aware of where these different informational areas are that identify where applications are coming in, where different meetings are being held, and what's on the agendas. And that way, you folks can be fully aware of what's coming down the line, whether it's at a commission meeting or the Cultural Resource Commission or the Board of Appeals or even just our permits that come in, those kind of things. But definitely we'll work together to see how we can make all of that more effective and better for not only your folks, but the other action committees as well.
Any other questions? Okay, John, you touched on your last point, but if you want to finish off with that.
Yeah, this one, I had asked council if I could actually bring forth an example of something that it just came into our office and well, it actually came in a little while ago, but I was thinking, oh, this would be a good opportunity to identify a process that something comes in, we look at the plan, and we realize that, oh, this is, you know, directly in relation to the community development plan. I cannot speak directly to the particular application as of yet. Because of the fact that that hasn't been agendized and I haven't been able to specifically ask the applicant or their consultant for permission to bring it forth. But it was a good opportunity to discuss some of the things that happen in our office that we look at the general plan or the CDP and make sure it's consistent. So one of them that recently happened was a subdivision that came in. And, you know, staff looks at the subdivision. Sometimes I'm trying to um, uh, help staff understand that we have to be looking at this with the bigger picture, right? With the general plan, and then if this is in a particular area that a community development plan affects this particular area or this project, we need to consider that in our approvals. This particular application that came in was in line with one of the concurrency roads that is identified within the plan under the land use concurrency map. In that map, it identifies all these proposed roads that provide different connectivity throughout the Kona urban area. And so if a project, whether it's a rezoning or a subdivision or whatever it may be, if that's in line with that, we really should be taking action to preserve that opportunity, or else we may lose it, right? So that's something we do, and we're trying to get better at it as applications come in. It's a lot easier through a rezoning because, you know, we have to really look at a rezoning with all kinds of different uh, ideas and angles and different agency comments and different plans and all kinds of things. So there's a lot of focus on a particular area when a rezoning comes in. And not only that, we have the public that's also watching it, as well as yourselves, that provides input and helps us to focus on, you know, the how this particular rezoning is should be addressed as far as meeting consistency with either the general plan or the community development plan. When it comes to subdivisions, that's a little bit different. There's not a public hearing. Somebody's coming in, they're just wanting to subdivide their land. But even those applications may have direct impact on a particular section within the community development plan that we have to be monitoring and making sure that we don't lose that opportunity. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, that as you folks, and again, I know you have a few members there. You have Cavello and Jessica, and I believe Janice and um, Mariam. They're all great staff for the community development action committees. What we'll do is we'll work together to identify these areas that you folks can be made aware of, applications um, and meetings that are happening that may affect your area. And then we can work together. They can be made aware of certain things that you might have concerns about, and then we can collaborate on those particular things. Um, even if it's not a rezoning, maybe if it's a subdivision, or maybe if it's a plan approval. Plan approvals typically are like for a commercial development, or for a a multifamily residential type project, those kind of things. Sometimes we may not have a lot we can do as far as requiring them to do something, but we may. We just have to look at each particular situation. Um, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, that came up this week, and I thought it would be another opportunity to talk about trying to be consistent and keeping our eyes open for areas within the plan that may be being um, uh, uh, worked on in our process.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Any questions or comments for Jeff Linus? Yes, Sergeant.
Jeff, with the concurrency area of the community development plan, it requires that certain roads be built before there's zoning changes, my recollection is. The Keaho Parkway is not likely to ever be built. Does that mean that nobody can get a rezoning in that area?
Well, that was the dilemma prior to the 2019 change to the Kona Community Development Plan. So if you look at the amendments in 2019, you'll see that there was some significant changes to that particular section of the code. So I would recommend that you take a look at it. So now it didn't, and I'm going off memory here. I'm not like reading this verbatim, but my understanding is that that unless your project, number one, triggers the need for a traffic impact analysis report, which is typically 50 AM or PM trips. And that's found through the traffic guidebooks that they have that identify what a trip is and how much trips a particular type of project does. If that particular project doesn't trip, then it's not going to have to hold off on development, and it doesn't need to be conditioned that occupancy be delayed until these roads be built. But if you are in an area where there is one of these concurrency zone roads and your project is requiring some sort of traffic impact analysis report with improvements to that particular roadway, you will be required to do them. So it didn't, from the 2008 plan to the 2019 plan, the 2019 and on did not prevent rezoning as it did in the earlier. If my recollection is over that 10-year period, we didn't have, we may have had one small rezoning that was outside of a concurrency zone, but literally there was no rezonings during that time in Kona because of the fact that that concurrency zone requirements that you had to wait for all the roads in that zone to be built before you could move forward with occupancy, including the Keoho to Kahalu Parkway, which may not get done in our lifetime. So that's what I would suggest, is looking at the new amendment and kind of seeing how the plan addresses concurrency now.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you, Jeff. Do you feel comfortable fielding a question or two from Janice related to what you?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Thank you for waiting.
That's okay. Are you Pal, Jeff? Was that the last?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So I just had a short thing on STVRs, and it was something I brought up during the hearings, for vacation rentals, and that was the difference between a hosted versus owner hosted, property. There were a lot of concerns from the public about, places being hosted, especially in residential areas, that were by managers or someone else. And I just wondered if the new bills will address that in a more specific way, because it does seem to be an issue, something that's abused in those, in that legislation.
So if I could make sure I understand this. So in the new bill going forward, you want to make sure that we address this issue of operator or hosted versus owner hosted.
Correct. Yes, whether it's somebody that's hired to host it, or so that's just something that I think came up quite a bit, and it does seem to be, I know I have friends and neighbors or people that were affected when there's a manager hosted. You know, the host is just looking after the well-being of the rental rather than the neighborhood. Different thing. Thanks.
Real quick,
Oh,
Janet.
yes.
So currently in our zoning code under section 2547, which is bed and breakfasts, it does say that it refers to the operator, right? It can be an owner, obviously, but it could also be an operator. So even now, somebody that comes in as a B&B, it doesn't specifically say that it has to be an owner versus an operator, right? Just wanted to make that point, but I have your point taken. Thank you.
Yeah, that was why, because it was under the current bill.
Okay.
TODs, well, one thing that I, wanted to, or at least talk about, clarify in my own unclear way, is that it's meant to create basically a small community, a village. I mean, they're called villages. So a very small parcel of land isn't going to be conducive to having a commercial space and multimodal walkable community. I mean, that just to be clear for, newer people, that is the point of it. And that's why the parcels were, that we were considering were larger. At the same time, a assuming that one landowner has to own all that land just seems like a, you know, a shot against the idea. And there just needs to be incentives, speaking of incentives that John was talking about, to get landowners to come together to create TODs. Otherwise, that landowner is deciding where our development is going and where our towns are going and our communities. And that just is the complete opposite of, you know, what the CDP was trying to do. So I think that that's a really important thing. Also, concurrency, you know, and we've harkened back to the amendment process in 2019 several times. And, you know, being there since the very beginning, I mean, I think that most people, besides for the protection of natural and cultural resources, most people were there because of the abuse that non-planning was causing, the traffic, the lack of infrastructure overall. And so I hope that as the planning department moves forward and that the CDP action committee and all of us move forward, that we realize that concurrency is still a very important, if not the most important way to make TODs happen, to make all of it happen. Otherwise we have, and my question was, how do we stop things like the homeless shelter, the housing that's happening up in the hill by itself as an island, the civic center as an island? Like, those were not the kind of things that we envisioned in the CDP, where there would be, you know, people that don't have any money or homes living in a place where they can't walk or get to a shop. Same civic center, you can't get there unless you drive your car, you have to have a car. So I just wonder what the county, you know, once again, I think it has to do with incentivization. I mean, people don't all have this philanthropic, you know, nature. So I think, you know, incentivizing that, I mean, that whole thing with the judiciary happening where it was, I mean, it's just the kind of process you look at the end and you say, like, where is this region going? Why is there a CDP? What are we doing sitting at this table when crazy stuff like this is happening around our community, instead of it being, you know, homeless housing in a place where they can become integrated, people can become integrated into a community, walk to a job, you know, the kind of things, be served by medical care. I mean, that kind of stuff. So, you know, that is a question I have, is what we're doing to prevent those things from happening anymore. Because you see other places doing it, you know, in a much more, not streamlined isn't the word I want to use, a more efficient and just more logical manner. And then I was thinking about the design center, and I know that that was supposed to be the process that comes when a development is going, you know, when it's in the eye of the, just like beginning at the in the developer or landowner's mind. And I just think maybe there's a place for the CDP action committee or the public, or maybe the action committee, to get, you know, a glimmer of what's going on in that too before. I mean, they might have some ideas. I mean, you know, sometimes when I'm looking for something in my house, like happened while we're moving all around, is that my husband will say, how about me? I'll come in and look with a new set of eyes. And maybe that's what the planning department, as much as you have all of the experts and everybody's right there looking, you know, at these really important questions, maybe having the action committee involved at some different level would help, rather than after you're all finished with that process. So that's all my comments. Thank you so much for listening and let me do it.
That was quite a bit, Janice. Thank you.
There's a lot on my mind when it comes to the CDP, as you know.
If you know, development is tough. You know, it's hard to keep a handle on it, right? And so if you do find areas, not only in Hawaii, but other areas that are doing it more efficiently, we're always looking for different methods that might help us do things better. Right now, as far as concurrency goes, the Kona Community Development Plan was instrumental in bringing forth concurrency to a much higher level than it was at that time. We had just introduced concurrency in the zoning code, just before the concurrency came out in the Kona CDP. Our concurrency in the zoning code basically says that if you want to rezone, because rezoning is really where the rubber meets the road, right? You're taking a lower density and typically creating higher density. And so you've really got to look at how is this new development that's creating higher density impacting the region, right? And so we want to make sure that they have sufficient infrastructure and that they can also take care of any regional impacts that'll be happening. So in the code, you cannot rezone if you don't have county water. You cannot rezone if you don't have a method of wastewater. It may be septic, but typically when you're in the urban core, you have the availability of sewer. Traffic is a tough one because anybody introducing development in an area that's already overwhelmed with traffic, and they're saying that I'm not really adding any more to the overall traffic, that's hard, to for people to swallow, right? Now, what they can do is when they come in with the development is they can provide some relief maybe through some sort of improvement, regional improvement, whether it be a channelized intersection or maybe some storage lanes, whatever it may be. That typically has brought help and relief to a particular area that may be overwhelmed. But it's, trying to get everything handled is not easy. We just take it one application at a time, and the public is always able to participate. And ultimately, we rely either on the commissions or the council for the approvals.
So, and well, one of the things that I don't think that and you were talking about, rezoning, and that is, the big thing, but also I don't think that we are addressing subdivisions, and that, especially in ag land, is causing, and I think this is something that the CDP, the Action Committee, might want to bring to the table too, is that the subdivisions, especially of ag zoning around where I am in Hulualoa area, is like really impacting the infrastructure here. The Mamalahoa Highway that never, had much traffic is like, it's just changed, exponentially in the last 2 years, I can say. I live right, attached to it. And so I don't really think that the CDP specifically addresses that. And I also, that is also something that the planning that isn't, addressed by council, it's once again an appointed body, and that might be something, that's definitely causing issues, so that might be something that we need to focus on a bit, because it seems like everybody that comes up for a subdivision's getting approval. I don't see any denials lately. So it's
Subdivisions in agricultural zoning is a tough one. What typically happens is, and again, this is one of these planning concepts, and you might have heard me talk about it at one of the several meetings, is that what we're trying to do by focusing development in the urban cores is to prevent the need for having to subdivide outside with the larger agricultural lands, or having to drive way out in Ocean View or wherever into the urban core to work. We try to provide more opportunities in the core for people so that they don't have to do that. What people will end up doing is, if they can't find opportunities in the urban core, they'll look outside and buy a piece of agricultural land. Right now, let's say that you owned a piece of agricultural land and it's zoned Ag 5, but the property is 50 acres, right? Typically, you would be allowed to create 10 lots, right? Our code right now limits the amount you can subdivide agricultural land if you do not have county water. Most of these rural areas outside of the urban core aren't supplied with county water. They are on catchment. And so there's this variance process that was set up back in Chris Ewan's time that limits those to 6 lots. That's it. And there is some other exemptions that they call it the large lot exemption. And that's a little different. But typically people come in with a variance requesting subdivision up to 6 lots because of that allowance. But some of these lots, had they been able to rezone for what they are, some are Ag 1 and they may have 50 acres. They could have typically subdivided into 51-acre lots, but they don't have the infrastructure in place. So there is this check and balance right now in place. Some people are suggesting getting rid of that limit and allowing people to subdivide on catchment alone. Now, can you imagine that happening? How much potential subdivisions we would see in rural and agricultural zonings? They would, without any kind of infrastructure requirements, because they would apply for variances. So we're trying to keep a balance there, right? It allows someone the ability to subdivide, mainly for typically people have family, right? And they want an opportunity to be able to subdivide for their family. But anyway, it is a tough issue, but I've really tried to hold the line from people either trying to rezone on catchment, because that's another area that's every so often comes our way, and we try to hold the line, and then to either get rid of the variance limit or to increase it. And right now, I think keeping it where it has typically been working.
Thank you, Jeff. I think we should move on. Thank you, Janice, for all your questions. And thank you, Jeff, for your always thorough answers. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Jeff? Oh, sorry. Do you have a quick one, Josephine? We really do need to move on.
Well, it's in line with Janice, talking about all the infrastructure and all that, and since I live in a subdivision that's being impacted by roadways and next to that parkway, I just wanted to add that are they also looking at who's moving into these subdivisions? Because the more outsiders move in, the more tense our traffic becomes, because they don't follow the speed limits. They don't stop at our 3-way stop sign anymore down on Lee Drive, okay? It's like, within the last 5 years. So I know it's not a local thing, okay? Because I've been living here for 40 years, okay? But in the last 5 years, as more of these foreigners move in, we're not only having a problem with not having enough roads, we're having a problem with the people driving on these roads. The culture is changing. It's horrible. When I go up to Laco Street and meet Queen Kahumanu, they're running, instead of them slowing down when they see the yellow light before the red, they accelerate. You always see a car running the red all the time now. Never used to happen. So that needs to be considered too. I just wanna jump in and say that about the culture that's moving here and displacing the locals. Okay, it's displacing the locals. There's more of the culture moving in, and that's a real problem for me. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Josephine. Any other comments, Jeff?
No, I just want to thank you very much for the opportunity and look forward to working together in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today, coming last week, and working something out with Corporation Council to make it today. I know it was, you guys worked some way out to make it work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Aloha,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, aloha.
Thank you.
All right. So we will move on from, I don't think there's any motions we need to make on this. I think it was pretty informational. Okay, let's move on to item number 2, proposed testimony on Senate Bill 2336 and 2372. The committee will discuss Bill 2336 and Senate Bill 2372, both related to trees, and consider whether to submit testimony, discussion, and potential action. Any testimony on this business item?
Did you bring?
I did. I brought some information. I think that you had it in your packet as far as the 2 letters go. Was
So
it-
there's the draft.
Yeah, they were in the packet. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I've got a typo. I think something needs to go to a separate paragraph and should be a comma in there somewhere. But this is a bill relating to, actually, we have 2 bills, very, very timely for us, especially with the Tree City. The whole thing with trying to get our tree plan or planting plan going. And to get our arborist committee able to do a little bit more than just exceptional trees. But the one bill has to do with exceptional trees and let's see which one is that one. So it's basically having to do with establishing a state arborist advisory committee, not just our at the state level. So that we have something to we have something that's written into our code so that this actually happens. It's not something that is up to the whims of, we want to be able to take care of our trees. And so to be able to have the bill, let me just read it. The bill establishes base selection criteria for exceptional trees, adopting new exceptional trees selection criteria and the designation of significant trees. And so that's what the first bill is about.
So that would set a state criteria.
It's a straight, exactly. It's not, it's something that will help us at the state level, which will also trickle down to our community, right?
Is
So
that
that's kind of,
Sorry, is that 2336?
That's 237.
that's 2372.
Oh, thank you.
That's the one that's having to do with the exceptional trees
Okay, thank you.
and getting an arborist, a state arborist advisory committee. Within the the Department of Land and Natural Resources. So that's the first letter. It's actually gone through a couple of readings. It's going to the Ways and Means review. I think that one is as well. Or is that just a second?
So you have 2 bills here, and I was gonna bring this up.
Yeah,
3336, I think, has missed its deadline.
the 2336.
Yeah, because it was referred to WHAM and
Right.
I think it's-
So and that was my question.
yeah.
Is this even relevant anymore once it gets to that committee is passed through both readings, right?
Well, so it has to go through 3 readings in each chamber. So
Okay.
this one passed first and second reading, and also out of its first committee, it's referred to WHAM.
Okay,
It has now missed, I think it's the decking the decking deadline.
Crossover.
Yeah, so it hasn't passed out of its committee,
Okay.
that second committee, so I think it's dead.
So it's right
unfortunately.
through this session.
Yeah,
Well,
You're-
this is a biennium, so it's dead. It's off the table.
so it's not even, it's not even.
Somebody could introduce it next year if they want.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so it didn't make it.
It didn't make it.
Ah,
Your
nuts.
other bill did, I think it just today
Okay.
passed, or it was just posted that it passed third
You
reading.
know what, I just got up too.
So 2-3,
So when something goes into the WHAM committee, what happens, what is actually happening there?
that's the financial committee, so
Okay,
they
so they're
they
trying to
consider
figure out-
everything that has any kind of effect on the budget.
Okay,
So the testimony would have been appropriate there, but they never heard it, so
okay,
they never scheduled it for a hearing. So that one's not gonna have any more opportunities to submit testimony.
Too bad.
The other bill has passed third reading, so it's gonna cross over to the.
That's for the exceptional trees, which is a good thing. But this one's actually more important. We may have to try to introduce this one again for next year.
Yeah, who introduced that one?
Good
Gabbard, Chang,
question.
took a lot of full.
There's
Yes, Gabbard Chang, Fukunaga, McKelvey, and Richards, Tim Richards also.
Oh, Richard was on it, okay.
Yeah.
So that could be someone we could talk to again. Tim Richards covers some of the Kona CDP,
Yeah.
he's my state senator, so.
Okay.
To get it introduced again, but yeah, it'll have to.
Might have to wait till next year. It's still something that, it's nice that it's already been written up and it actually looks really good. And it's something that we were gonna have to try to initiate anyways. So we just try to figure out how to get it paid for, I guess, so that it goes through next time. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. I can talk to Tim Richards and find out a little bit more.
Yeah, we found that like, for next year, when it comes up, so it came up at Wham. If we were to get ahead of it, or you can do this personally, is write a letter that you email to the chair and vice chair, because the chair has to schedule it for a
Right.
hearing.
I actually did.
Oh, you did, okay, so you did what you
tried.
could, yeah.
I
And I know
tried.
it's hard with the legislative session with our meetings too, because they're only monthly, and the legislative session moves so fast. I mean, if this was last week,
Right.
I still have time, but.
And there were a couple other testimonies that were written that went in that were really, really good. One was Winston Welch from the Outdoor Circle had a really great testimony, and then the other one, somebody who I don't know, but he was also very, very good. And I thought that just those two testimonies, I thought would push this thing through, because they made so much sense, but apparently not.
One thing we learned when we first introduced the Sunshine Law bill is that sometimes it takes a couple of years to get things through. And
Right.
we thought
Took
we
us
had
2
that
years,
all
yeah.
ready, and they didn't like the title, so they killed it. It didn't get
Right.
because of that. And so then we had to, and they introduced, like over 2,000 bills, and only a fraction get through. So I don't think you need to be discouraged that your bill.
I'm not discouraged. I mean,
And that's why you need to.
Yeah, it is.
It takes a long
The
time.
thing is that it's such common sense to do it. And eventually you're gonna have to do a planting plan. You're gonna have to have, your arborist able to do a little bit more than just exceptional trees
But this serves a purpose too, because it gets more people exposed to the idea, even if it didn't pass, so people
That's true.
thinking about it and talking about it, being educated.
Right, there's so much more, and there could have been more that went into that bill than was even in there, that I was kind of going.
There's a lot of amendments,
Right, yeah, but anyway, we'll see if we can't try to introduce it again. Next year, the other one with exceptional trees is considerably easier. I would think, less costs involved, less people involved, but having those standards. So that we're not just chopping. I was, driving down the road and they just chop these trees and these neat little balls, and I'm going, well, there went all of our shade. There went all of our benefits, from these trees. So, and things are being taken down left or right. And I'm going, look, if we don't get ahead of this, we're gonna have some issues. Just in my neighborhood, in my particular house, I've got this grove of mango trees that came with the house. I refused to cut them. They're a nuisance. I've got one right in the middle of the driveway. You have to go around, but my house is so much cooler than anybody else's in that neighborhood.
So
So I'd like to see that benefit for
Yeah.
our community.
has everyone had the chance to read through the letter that was shared?
So what number is it that we're
This
talking
is
about now that's still alive?
SB 372 specifically. So the other one's not alive, so I think we should probably
Yeah, we'll just-
drop
Just
that. Yeah.
drop
Exactly.
But this one we can put a letter together Cause so it's gonna cross over and it'll be referred to a couple committees in the House. I don't know which ones.
Yeah.
And then whenever it comes up at that first committee. We can submit testimony for that. And I
Okay.
think that's what maybe we're voting on today is to submit testimony when the opportunity comes up. But until then, we don't really have an opportunity to. I mean, I guess we could also, I don't know if we could use the same thing to email the chair and vice chair, or if we should just wait to submit it as testimony.
Yeah, I mean, cause it's crossover right now, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't try and attempt
yeah.
until it's assigned. And then I think once it's assigned, then we would probably want to reach out to the chair
Mhm.
to make sure it's being heard.
Yeah.
Cause just cause it's assigned doesn't mean it'll be heard again, right? And so I think if it really matters, then maybe we would draft a letter that would.
That we could email to the
That
chair
we
and vice chair.
could, yeah, to make sure it's heard and then the testimony on top of it.
Yeah. Which basically we could use similar language on both of them. We would just change like. The opening line from like, we're strongly supporting this to, we want you, well, as we say, we're strongly supporting this, but we want you to schedule this for a hearing, basically.
I mean, I don't know how much we can get involved politically, but maybe we can even reach out to our representatives in West Hawaii or in Kona to see if they can help as well.
Yeah,
I don't know how much we can.
yeah, what do you guys think about that area, Janice?
I think that's fine. We did that for the community outreach board, I think we copied,
Oh, yeah,
I believe we did.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, so it's something we can email to.
we can, yeah.
Okay.
in
to
the motion.
Nicole
Yeah.
and Kirsten.
Yeah,
And then whoever makes the motion can just say that, so that we make sure we do that as a follow-up, I mean. This meeting,
okay,
cause you're saying draft a letter to email,
yeah, because we wanna try to get them to schedule
right,
this.
to make sure that it's actually going to be heard, and then we can submit Charlotte's letter as testimony. When there's an actual opportunity,
Okay,
okay, that's kind of what I'm.
okay,
hearing.
yeah, no, I think it's perfect,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, thanks for putting this letter together and identifying specific policies. It's important, yeah. Sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt if you have more things to say about this.
No. No, I'm good.
Okay. Any thoughts?
If somebody makes a motion, I'll support it.
Yeah, do you wanna make the motion, Drew?
Well, no, somebody else. I make a motion that we draft would it be a letter?
Yeah.
To whatever House committee is going to be possibly hearing this, so that it is read. And also to submit testimony after that.
I'll second it. What number was that again?
SB 237.
72.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion on the table to submit a letter to the. About regarding SB 2372 Senate Draft 1, to submit that to. Submit a letter, it's actually at Senate Draft 2 now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would want to change that. Sorry, I'm writing on your
That's
floor.
fine.
So after the vote crosses over, it gets assigned to a committee to submit a letter to the chair and vice chair of that committee and our local House members, to get this bill scheduled to be heard. And then to submit Charlotte's testimony when this bill is scheduled for a hearing.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on it? Charlie?
Yeah, I had a question. Do we
Yeah.
know if there's a companion bill?
No, no more.
No
Yeah,
more?
there definitely isn't one for the one. No, it looks like there's not one for either of them now.
Okay,
Thanks, Charlie.
all good.
Okay. Guess we'll call for the vote then. All those in favor of that long motion, please vote by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? All right. So motion passes.
Awesome.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for digging into this, yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll, once, it takes like a year or two to really understand It's a mess, like going through everything in the
Yeah.
state legislature.
I took the online class about the legislature and how it, is here, it crosses over and stuff, but I mean, I think I'll have to listen to it again.
They make up their own rules over there.
Yes.
Comprehensive.
Could I have one little comment?
Oh,
I just wanted to say incentives are gonna be a huge thing when we bring up the for the 2372, thank you for passing that. That's awesome, the letter. But for 2336 or whatever else, along those lines that we do, I think the thrust is going to have to be finding ways to, make it worthwhile for people to keep their trees, especially, well, private and commercial landowner, private landowners especially, including commercial and other residences. The government land is a whole different thing, but yeah, incentives are needed so your neighbors aren't all chopping down their trees like mine are too.
Thanks, Janice. All right, so we will move, that'll take us over to public testimony on matters not on the agenda. The time is 1:33. We'll now take public testimony on matters not on the agenda. This agenda item is provided pursuant to Hawaii Senate Bill 869. Signed into law as Act 53. Testimony may be limited to 3 minutes per guest speaker. Please note the committee may listen and ask brief clarifying questions, but generally will not deliberate or take action on the items not on the agenda. Anyone here who wishes to testify on items not on the agenda? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none, we'll move on to proposed new business. Do any committee members have items proposed for a future agenda? Anybody have any items now?
Did you want to put the Lee Parkway on the
we're
next?
gonna wait another,
Okay,
I'm gonna wait a little while.
Okay.
Yeah,
should we put the general plan on it?
Yeah, we might put the general plan back on.
that'd be nice.
Seems
Yeah, it's
like
appropriate
the timing
time, yeah.
has come since
Yeah,
the starting to go through council again.
yeah.
This would be the new,
Yeah,
General
okay,
plan
the amendment.
draft, the new
yeah,
draft.
well, I guess since they're proposing the amendment hasn't been approved, so.
Right. Right.
Something.
See if we wanna chime in on that or not,
For sure,
Yeah, yeah.
so it'd be good for people to familiarize yourselves with the original draft and what's currently being proposed. They're very, very different.
Are they?
yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah. Is there a link that we can be sent to?
I sent an email yesterday afternoon and
Oh,
it
okay,
should have
that's
the
probably-
communication in that email.
That link
Okay.
had the original bill, the original draft, it only had the
No,
current one.
I can send you,
It'd be good to have.
yeah, I'll send the committee an email with some background of the proposed draft from the department and then this new amendment that was proposed.
And this was proposed by Councilmember Kirkowitz.
Yes.
Kirk.
So the amendment that the planning department introduced had been being written for about 3 different administrations. It's a long time coming. And then went to the council and the council basically stopped it in place. And they said, we're gonna radically change it. So that's kind of where we're at.
Jeff, did you have something?
I'd just like to get a copy of that too. That's the first I'm hearing about it.
Oh, yeah, thank
If
you.
you could email me,
Sure.
I'd
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty new, fresh. They just met about it this morning.
I would too, please. Thank you. I'd love
Okay.
coffee. Thank you.
Okay, and if anyone has any more agenda items, we'll probably follow up with the Senate bill stuff. Just at least noting we submitted it, or
Okay.
things like we said, things move fast, so maybe a committee will have heard it by our next meeting. If anyone has anything else, feel free to email planning or me and Nancy for our upcoming meeting.
John, another thing. I was about
Yes.
subdivisions. It was about the planning director's conversation and we were having about subdivisions and I was of ag land and I was just wondering if it might be appropriate for the action committee to revisit the idea of cluster zoning as that, like that was supposed to be one of the, that is a way that the CDP addresses subdivisions on ag land. It doesn't seem to be being used. I could be missing something, but I'm just wondering if, revisiting that and coming up with some ideas about how we can maybe get that going, within the county again, just generate some enthusiasm about the idea since it was meant to lighten the load for infrastructure, et cetera.
Thank you, Janice.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you have anything you want to add?
Not at this moment, but some of the things that the director mentioned is raising questions in my mind. Maybe we can get him to come back. There's a lot of 5-acre subdivisions popping up in South Kona, and well, they've been there for a while, but they're starting to get developed without the infrastructure, as it was saying. I think some of that's just investment boondoggle, but I think there's one on Ka'apuna on the third lava flow, which is a it's going to be supposedly a luxury sort of subdivision, and they're going to put estates on it. I think there's 38 houses they're going to put on 5-acre lots, and it's right on top of the lava flow.
Right on.
They've got to go through all kinds of hoops to get it done, but I kind of like to get an update on where, how many hoops that they already gone through. It seems almost impossible. It doesn't seem like, but with enough money, everything's impossible. Everything's possible.
Already subdivided?
Yeah. Well, no. I think they've got to get subdivision. But what happened years ago was that land was rezoned for a golf course.
Of course,
Right.
conservation. Yeah.
Right. So it fell under ag land, rural land, and so now they can get a subdivision. So I think they're applying for it, and I don't know if I'm trying to find the name. It's Gold something, but they were asking for investors.
But without water, it's on the Mackay side of the highway, right?
That's correct.
They don't have enough rainfall to get a waterway.
I know, but they've got a well right down below. They drilled a well in the
You.
OP Highly area.
And then they have to remain under 14 lots. To use a
Yeah.
private well or
True.
DD.
Yeah.
Do you want this on the agenda?
Yeah, so this is something you want on the agenda, or you're thinking about it, or?
I'm just thinking about it. I don't want it on now until I wouldn't suggest putting it on now until we get more,
Okay,
yeah, get questions for it.
okay, yeah, if you think of anything, feel free to reach out.
We can
Yeah.
also work Jack.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Okay.
say work with Jeff.
Yeah, that'd be
get
great.
some matches people.
that'd be awesome. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, I'll move on to our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Is that gonna be in here?
Yes.
In here. Okay, I'll move on to the announcements. I got one about Hawaii County Council Bill 63, Draft 3 relating to dwellings passed second and final reading on February 18, 2026. We submitted our testimony. I don't think anything really changed, right, Nancy? Or you were used to, Nancy and I read it in and I had to take off, so Nancy stuck around. So it passed basically where it was left. But thank you everyone for the long process of testifying and submitting on that. I think our testimony had a big impact. They really didn't discuss it at all until we submitted our testimony, and then, we had weeks of discussion, so.
And I was
Appreciate
thinking,
it.
I wanted to thank you for getting those maps made originally.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that really woke everybody up to realize how much land was in Kona that fell into that category, but I hadn't really thought about it before. And the fact that you did that research and came up with those maps is very helpful to motivating me to take an interest in that bill. So thank you.
So, just clarifying, so that was passed the way that it came through, I mean, as far as did they change anything, did they amend it?
Yeah, so it's not a permitted use. Housing is not a permitted use. Needs a special use permit.
Okay,
So it did get that,
Good.
and that was where I brought it at last meeting, and then that's the.
okay.
Oh, yeah, so special use permit.
And I think our input influenced that change. That it should
Yeah.
be just across the board,
Right,
I think if we had said nothing, it would have just passed.
the way it was originally.
awesome.
We no longer have to talk. Got those. The environmental notice, February 23rd, 2026, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, North Kona Wells, Keaho Wells Site, and Kahulu Storage Tanks Project. Final environmental assessment, publication, and finding of no significant impact can be assessed from the link that was, I'm assuming, attached to the agenda. I won't read the link out loud. And lastly, the planning department is seeking applicants for the Kona CDP Action Committee. The application can be found on the mayor's office website under county boards and commissions.
And real quick, I
Yes.
checked the schedule. The next meeting will be in building G, so the community.
Oh, we usually have it.
Yeah,
Oh, that'll be interesting, I'm interested to find out, thank you.
yeah. I think the next few meetings will be there, so. Of course,
Especially the general plan.
I know, just a quick time with.
That'd be perfect, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
so of course, you guys will get an email before confirming the location.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for looking that up. Okay, nothing else. I will adjourn the meeting. Meeting is adjourned at 1:43 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Will.
you.
Oh.
Thank you.